Under the blazing desert sun of New Mexico, time itself feels warped, like the land is holding its breath, waiting. The mesas glow red at dusk, the wind carries whispers from centuries past, and every adobe ruin hides a story that refuses to die. This state has always been a strange crossroads, where Spanish conquistadors, Pueblo spirits, miners, outlaws and drifters left behind something they could never quite bury. Some call it superstition, others prove that the desert remembers everything. From the ghost towns of Lincoln County to the blood-soaked missions near Santa Fe, the legends of New Mexico aren't just stories, they're echoes. Each one begins with a flicker of truth. A name in an old record, a note in a diary, a skeleton found beneath the sand. But over the years, those facts bled into folklore, twisting into something darker and harder to explain. Tonight, we are peeling back the layers of time to meet the shadows that never left. These are 12 scary New Mexico ghosts that still haunt us, tales of love, vengeance, madness, and unfinished business. Some you've heard in passing, others still whisper in the wind outside lonely gas stations at night. And by the end, you might start to wonder if these spirits are legends or just very patient memories waiting to be noticed again. Legend 1. The Weeping Woman of the Rio Grande. They say if you walk near the river on a moonless night, you'll hear her crying before you see her. A woman in white, drenched and pale, her sobs tangled with the sound of rushing water. Those who follow the sound rarely make it back the same. The story began in the early 1700s, when Spanish settlers first built homes along the Rio Grande near what's now Albuquerque. Among them was a young woman named Maria, beautiful, poor, and desperately in love with a soldier stationed at the nearby Presidio. He promised her marriage, but when his family forbade it, he left her for a woman of higher status. Driven mad by grief and betrayal, Maria drowned her 2 children in the river and then herself. Locals began reporting strange sounds soon after. Travelers on horseback said they heard wailing near the banks at night. A priest wrote in his 1742 journal about seeing a woman in white garments dripping with river water, kneeling in the shallows as though searching for something. Even in the 20th century, there are police reports of motorists pulling over on Rio Bravo Boulevard, swearing they saw a soaked woman dart across the road and vanish into thin air. Skeptics say it's just sound distortion carried by the wind, or the cry of a distant coyote mistaken for a woman's sobs. But to New Mexicans, La Llorona isn't a metaphor, she's a warning. Parents tell their children to stay away from the river after dark, and during the annual Dia de los Muertos festivals, offerings are left by the water to soothe her restless spirit. Some claim her story changes shape with each retelling, that she's not just one ghost, but a reflection of every mother's grief, every betrayal that echoes through generations. And still, beneath the bridge at midnight, people stop and listen, because somewhere between the rippling water and the sighing wind, someone is still weeping. Legend 2. The Ghost Bride of Fort Union. On the endless plains near Watrous, New Mexico, the ruins of Fort Union stand like broken teeth against the horizon. Locals say that when the wind howls through the empty windows, you can hear the faint rustle of satin, the ghost of a bride still waiting for a wedding that never came. In the 1,860 seconds, Fort Union was a bustling military post. Among the officers was Captain Daniel Whitlock, who sent for his fiancée, Eleanor, from back east. Her carriage was ambushed by bandits near Raton Pass. She was killed, her body never found. Heartbroken, the captain wandered the fort grounds at night, calling her name, until one cold dawn, he vanished. Soon after, soldiers began seeing a woman in a white gown gliding across the parade grounds. A sentry in 1871 swore she drifted right through the barracks wall. In the 1,930 seconds, a ranger reported her standing on the fort's old chapel steps, veil fluttering in the wind, though there was no breeze. Skeptics blame mirages and moonlight tricks. But every summer, tourists claim their cameras malfunction near the officers' quarters, freezing on a single frame. A blur of white, a hint of lace, and the desert, refusing to forget. Legend 3. The Headless Horseman of Galena Canyon. North of Abiquiu, the cliffs of Galena Canyon hide more than ancient petroglyphs. When the moon climbs high, riders claim they see a lone horse tearing through the dust at saddle empty, save for a bloody saber strapped across it. Moments later comes the stench of gunpowder and a man's voice shouting from nowhere. The tale began in the 1,880 seconds, when a cavalry scout named Elias Warner was ambushed by bandits while escorting a payroll wagon through the canyon. They decapitated him and vanished with the gold. His horse returned to the fort without its rider covered in blood, but untouched. Soldiers buried what they could find. Weeks later, the sentry on duty reported hearing hoofs pounding toward the gate, though no one approached. In 1921, a rancher found old coins scattered across the trail and heard what he called a galloping fury without a head. In 2004, 2 hikers told park rangers they saw glowing eyes floating above the sagebrush, moving fast and silent. Historians dismiss it as campfire talk, blaming echoes and local bandit myths. Yet the Galena wines still carry the sound of hooves long after midnight, a restless soldier chasing thieves no one ever caught. Legend 4. The Ghosts of Dawson Mine. The town of Dawson once thrived with coal, laughter, and false promises. Today, it's just dust and gravestones. 2 massive explosions in 1913 and 1923 killed nearly 400 miners, most of them Italian and Mexican immigrants chasing the American dream underground. They say the earth still mourns them. Locals claim that on quiet nights, faint lights flicker near the old shaft's lanterns swinging in rhythm, like miners still searching for a way out. Survivors once told stories of hearing pigs striking rock long after the tunnels were sealed. A widow in 1938 swore she saw her husband's shadow kneel by the door, hat in hand, before vanishing into smoke. Skeptics point to pockets of methane igniting or tricks of temperature inversion. But every year, during the memorial in Cimarron, people leave bread and candles for the men who never came home. The Dawson Cemetery glows with hundreds of iron crosses, and visitors say they sometimes feel a hand brush their shoulder, rough, calloused, and desperate, to remind the living that they were real once, before the darkness took them. Legend 5. The Phantom of Street James Hotel. In the quiet town of Cimarron, the Street James Hotel stands polished but uneasy, its red wallpaper hiding more bullet holes than anyone cares to count. Built in 1872, it was a frontier sanctuary for gamblers, gunslingers, and drifters, and by all accounts, a perfect breeding ground for restless spirits. The most infamous is Thomas James Wright, a gambler who won big, one night too big. He was shot dead outside room 18 before he could collect his winnings. The bloodstain never fully washed away, and the room was permanently sealed after guests complained of choking, cold air, and mirrors cracking on their own. Staff still leave a shot of whiskey on the dresser each night to keep him calm. Guests claim to see shadowy figures pacing the hallway or smell cigar smoke when no one's around. In 1989, a construction worker refused to finish repairs, saying he felt a man standing right behind me, breathing hard. Skeptics call it atmosphere and suggestion. But even skeptics sleep with the lights on in Cimarron, where the line between history and haunting is as thin as the hotel's old wallpaper. Legend 6. The Lady in Black of Mesilla Plaza. Mesilla looks peaceful now. Adobe shops, soft light, tourists eating enchiladas, but the plaza once ran red with blood. In the 1,850 seconds, it was a frontier crossroads full of gunfights, lynchings, and broken oaths. They say one woman never left, the Lady in Black, mourning a man who died for her. Her story starts with Ines, daughter of a wealthy merchant. She fell in love with a soldier who deserted his post to be with her. When he was caught and executed in the plaza, Ines appeared dressed in black, carrying a single red rose. She wept, kissed his name, carved on the scaffold post, and vanished. The next morning, townsfolk found her veil draped over the gallows, but she was gone. Since then, every few years, someone sees her pacing the plaza near midnight, face hidden, dress rustling like dry leaves. In 1977, a patrol officer followed her across the square until she dissolved into the wall of the church. Locals say she's not malevolent, just lonely, a grief that refuses to fade. Still, bars around the plaza close early on her anniversary. No one wants to hear her footsteps echo behind them when the night wind rises. Legend 7. The Haunting of Fort Craig. Deep in the Jornada del Muerto Desert, the ruins of Fort Craig crouch beneath the sun like bones too stubborn to decay. During the Civil War, Union soldiers fought and died there under brutal heat, but not all of them left when the bugle stopped. Locals whisper that the fort is still garrisoned by ghosts. It began after the 1862 Battle of Valverde. Soldiers buried their dead hastily in the sand before retreating. Years later, surveyors camped near the ruins, heard boots crunching outside their tents, voices murmuring orders in the dark. In 1957, an archaeologist excavating the site reported seeing a man in a tattered blue coat, saluting him before fading into the dust. Skeptics say the desert plays tricks mirages, heat shimmer, distant echo, but travelers still find bootprints leading nowhere, and their compasses spin near the old parade ground. Park rangers close the area before nightfall, claiming it's for safety, though no one says from what. Every so often, under a copper sky, the wind carries a bugle's faint call. No one knows who's answering, only that the desert still remembers its dead. Legend 8. The Ghost Lights of the Organ Mountains. The Organ Mountains rise jagged and sharp over Las Cruces, their peaks catching fire at sunset, but when darkness falls, stranger lights take their place. Pale blue orbs drift along the ridgelines, flicker near the canyons, then vanish as if swallowed by the stone. The first accounts came from Apache scouts in the 1800s, who warned settlers that the mountains were guarded by spirits. Later, prospectors chasing silver in the 1890 seconds reported lanterns in the sky, believing rival miners were marking hidden veins. They climbed toward the glow and never returned. In 1948, an Air Force pilot out of Holloman Base logged a stationary illumination hovering over the range. In 2002, hikers recorded lights weaving between the cliffs, changing color, moving against the wind. Scientists chalk it up to piezoelectric discharges, quartz under pressure sparking in the rock. Locals shake their heads. They say the lights are the souls of miners still searching, or Apache warriors keeping outsiders away. Either way, the Organ Mountains keep their secret. Those who chase the lights too far often find nothing but silence and the uneasy sense that something was watching them all along. Legend 9. The Restless Nuns of Santa Fe's La Posada. In the heart of Santa Fe, La Posada de Santa Fe stands elegant and expensive, but its foundations were laid in grief. Before it became a luxury hotel, it was the Starb mansion home to Abraham Starb and his wife Julia, who descended into madness after the death of their child. They say she never left, and she's not alone. Guests often report cold spots, doors slamming, or the faint sound of weeping near the stairwell. In 1979, a maid saw a woman in a grey gown standing by the window of room 256. When she approached, the figure turned and faded into the wall. Renovation workers in the 1990 seconds uncovered a bricked-up alcove containing fragments of rosary beads and claimed to hear humming in the empty hallways afterward. Historians note that the mansion once sheltered nuns fleeing persecution during the Mexican Reform War, some of whom died on the property. Skeptics insist it's just a building settling, air currents, suggestion. Yet staff still light candles in the chapel every night. Because when the lights go out in La Posada, whispers echo through the corridors, prayers in languages long forgotten, still begging for peace. Legend 10. The Skinwalker of Highway 285. Between Roswell and Vaughan, the desert highway stretches for miles flat, empty and wrong after midnight. Truckers talk about strange figures on the roadside, too tall, too thin, faces shifting in their headlights like wet clay. They call it the Skinwalker's Stretch. The legend runs deep in Navajo lore, witches who abandoned humanity to wear the skins of beasts. In the 1970 seconds, ranchers near Encino began finding mutilated cattle, organs removed with surgical precision. One night, a family reported a man with a coyote's head crouched on their porch. Police found prints that changed from barefoot to paw midway across the yard. In 1996, a truck driver named Cole Riggs swore something ran beside his rig at 70 miles an hour, slapping the door before vanishing. He quit the route that same week. Skeptics blame coyotes, dehydration, or military experiments from nearby bases. Locals still leave cedar smoke offerings by the mile markers. Travelers who ignore the old warnings sometimes vanish into the desert haze. And every so often a driver catches a glimpse in the rearview mirror, something smiling where no mouth should be. Legend 11. The Ghost of the Billy the Kid Museum. In Fort Sumner, where the wind tastes of dust and legend, Billy the Kid refuses to die. His grave, marked by iron bars, draws visitors from everywhere, but it's the nearby museum where things truly steer. The curator swears the air changes near Billy's pistol display. Photographs slide off shelves, alarms trigger without power, and visitors feel a tap on their shoulder when no one's behind them. In 1983, a night guard quit after hearing spurs jingling down an empty hallway. He was laughing, the man said. Soft, but right next to me. The legend began in 1881, when Sheriff Pat Garrett shot the outlaw in Pete Maxwell's house. But rumors spread fast that Garrett killed the wrong man and Billy escaped. Some say his ghost walks because he never got the peace of being believed dead. Skeptics point to old wiring and desert humidity, but locals leave silver coins on his headstone payment for protection on the road. After dark, the museum creaks like a body shifting in its coffin, and sometimes a faint voice mutters, "They got the wrong one." Legend 12. The haunted tracks of San Antonio, New Mexico, just south of Socorro, lies a lonely set of railroad tracks where the desert meets Mesquite and silence. Locals swear if you park your car on the crossing and leave it in neutral, unseen hands will push you to safety uphill. It's said to be the work of children who died there long ago. The story began in the 1930 seconds when a school bus stalled on the tracks as a freight train roared toward it. Everyone on board perished. Soon after, drivers reported their stalled vehicles moving by themselves across the rails. Many dusted baby powder on their bumpers, only to find small handprints left behind. Scientists talk about magnetic fields, optical illusions, gravity hills, but they can't explain the feeling, the sudden hush, the soft push forward, the smell of engine oil mixed with something faintly sweet. Residents treat the place as sacred, crosses dot the roadside, and no one honks near the tracks. At night, when headlights cut through the sagebrush, some swear they see faint silhouettes of children waiting by the road, small, patient, and unwilling to let anyone else meet their fate.